The scream tore across the glassy lake like a knife through silk. Someone stole my clothes. Caden Blackmore froze mid-step, one boot sunk in damp moss, the other hovering above a bed of alien ferns. The sound didn't belong in a place like this, too human, too panicked, too close. His instincts, 20 years of field work on hostile worlds, told him to move away. Quietly. Quickly. This was how misunderstandings became massacres on border planets. But the voice came again, smaller now, shaking with humiliation. Please. I can't come out like this. Caden swallowed, forced his eyes to the ground, and lifted both hands as if the forest itself could accuse him. I didn't see anything, he called, carefully pitching his voice calm. Where are you? Stay in the water. A pause. A soft sob swallowed back. Here, near the rock. I left them there. Now they're gone. Caden's jaw tightened. Theft meant people. People meant trouble. And on Glorian 7, trouble didn't stay small for long. Only then did he remember why he'd come to this cursedly beautiful place in the first place. He pushed aside a curtain of broad leaves and stepped into a clearing that stole his breath. A mountain lake sprawled before him, black and glossy under twin suns, one harsh white, the other amber, turning the mist into glowing silk. The water was impossibly clear, revealing shimmering flecks that flashed gold as they darted beneath the surface. Glorian gold scales. Jackpot, Caden whispered, then immediately regretted it as the sound carried across open water. Across the lake, in the shallows, a pale silhouette shifted behind a veil of mist. Humanoid. Small. Upright. Very, very real. Caden's professional brain snapped into place. Do not stare. Do not approach. Do not become a headline. He began backing into the tree line. Sir, the voice snapped, desperate. Please. Caden stopped. His canteen was down to a quarter. His camp was an hour away. The suns were already leaning toward the horizon. He could walk away. He could pretend he hadn't heard. Instead, he exhaled, long and controlled, like he was calming a spooked animal. I'll help, he said. But I'm not looking. I'm staying turned away. He shrugged off his battered leather jacket and peeled off his white t-shirt, leaving his chest exposed to the sticky heat. He held the clothes out at arm's length like offerings to a cautious deity and stepped to the lake's edge without lifting his gaze above the stones. I'm placing these on a rock, he called. They'll be too big. But it's better than nothing. A soft splash. Water moved. Thank you, the voice whispered, relief trembling through the syllables. Please, turn around. Face the forest. Caden did, staring into ferns and shadow. He listened to footsteps on wet sand, then the faint rustle of fabric being pulled on. The silence that followed felt heavier than the humidity. You may look now, she said quietly. I am decent. Caden turned, slowly, carefully, and his brain, trained to catalogue ecosystems, briefly forgot how to function. She stood barely to his shoulder, slender and composed, wearing his t-shirt like a simple dress that reached her knees. His jacket draped over her like a cloak. Her skin was a soft luminous green, not matte like paint but alive like moonlight filtered through jade. Long silver-white hair clung damply to her cheeks. And her eyes. Grey. Large. Expressive. Watching him with gratitude and something unreadable that made his pulse shift. Her ears tapered to elegant points through wet strands, and despite the ridiculous size of his clothing, she carried herself with the poise of someone used to rooms falling silent when she entered. I am Leia, she said, voice melodic, accented. And you have my deepest gratitude, human. Caden cleared his throat, suddenly aware of his own bare chest, the sweat on his skin, the sheer wrongness of meeting a stranger like this on an alien world. Caden Blackmore, he replied, extending a hand before he could stop himself. To his surprise, she took it, tentatively. Her touch was cool, like lake water trapped under skin. Your body is warm, she observed softly, as if she'd never felt heat like this. And yours is freezing, Caden managed, then forced himself back into practicality. Are you from here? I wasn't aware Glorian 7 had. I am Glorian. A shadow crossed her face. Highlands. We keep our distance from outsiders. Caden nodded, sincere. Then I apologize. I'm here to study the goldscale fish. I had no intention of disturbing the sacred swimmers, Leia whispered, eyes widening. Before Caden could ask what that meant, the underbrush behind them rustled, subtle, deliberate. Leia's fingers closed around his forearm with surprising strength. We must not remain here, she said urgently. The one who took my garments may return. Caden's gaze sharpened. Do you have somewhere safe? Her throat bobbed. I cannot return dressed in a stranger's clothing. Caden looked at the forest, then the lowering suns. He didn't like this. He didn't like it at all. But he'd already crossed whatever invisible line existed between them. Then you come with me, he decided. My camp is an hour away. Leia hesitated, then nodded, solemn as a vow. I will accompany you, Caden Blackmore, she said. But understand, by accepting your garments, you have invoked an ancient bond among my people. Caden frowned. A bond? Leia's eyes held his. One that cannot be easily broken. And as they stepped into the trees together, Caden felt it clear as a cold hand on a hot pulse. His quiet research expedition was over. They moved fast, but the forest refused to make it easy. Caden led with the wary confidence of a man who had survived worlds that tried to eat him. Leia followed, struggling in boots that were comically large even after he tightened the laces to their limit. Every few minutes she stumbled over roots hidden by slick moss, and every time she did, Caden caught her by the elbow or the wrist. Each touch felt wrong in the strangest way. Not inappropriate, just significant, like the air noticed. Your people don't get many human visitors, Caden said, helping her over a fallen trunk. You are the first human I have encountered outside of historical texts, Leia replied. Her silver hair caught the light through the canopy, glittering as if dusted with frost. Your kind rarely ventures into the highlands. Caden glanced at her, surprised. Historical texts. You study us. A small smile curved her lips. Extensively. Humans fascinate me. He snorted. That makes one of us. Most of the galaxy thinks humans are unpredictable at best. Unpredictable, Leia echoed, almost fondly. And capable of change. That is, rare. Caden noticed how she said it like she admired it, but it also hurt her. They walked another stretch in silence until Caden couldn't ignore the earlier words. You said I invoked a bond. By giving you my shirt. Leia's steps faltered. Her gaze fixed on the path ahead like it might save her from answering. It is complicated. Try me, Caden said. I've been insulted in 12 languages and married off to a mining chief once by accident. I can handle complicated. That earned a quiet, startled laugh. Then her expression sobered. Among my people, covering a woman's nakedness when she is vulnerable, is not only kindness. It is a declaration. A declaration of what? Caden asked, though he suspected he wouldn't like the answer. That you accept responsibility for her honor, Leia said softly. And her protection. Caden stopped walking. Leaves trembled around them in the hot wind. Leia, I was just trying to help you not freeze naked on a rock. I know, she said quickly, voice tight with sincerity. But our laws do not care for intent. Only for the act. Caden rubbed a hand over his face. So what happens now? Leia's throat bobbed. I must remain with you until the bond is repaid, or dissolved. Dissolved how? He asked. She didn't answer immediately. The silence felt like a warning. Formally, she said at last. Caden resumed walking because stopping made it too real. Great. Fantastic. I came here to study fish and ended up adopting alien honor. Leia looked at him, and for a second her composure cracked, something like fear flashed behind her grey eyes. It is worse than you think. Caden's camp appeared near dusk, tucked into a clearing, his single-person shelter dome beside a portable research station. Holographic panels cycled through aquatic scans and nutrient readings. It was modest, practical, and suddenly felt embarrassing in the presence of someone who moved like royalty. It's not much, Caden admitted. It is efficient, Leia said, studying the technology with open curiosity. Her fingers hovered over the displays without touching. Different than I expected. Different good or different bad? Simply, different. She turned, and his jacket slid off one shoulder. She caught it absently, then looked at him with a gravity that straightened his spine. Caden Blackmore, she said. There is something you must know. Caden's stomach tightened. Okay. The garments that were taken were not ordinary clothing. Her hands twisted the hem of his t-shirt. They were royal vestments, bearing the insignia of House Atlassi. Caden blinked. Royal, as in I am first daughter to High Elder Thesi, Leia said, chin lifting. The gesture was small, but it transformed her. Leader of the 7 tribes of the Highlands. Caden let out a short laugh that held no humor. You're telling me I just gave my shirt to a princess? Yes. He stared at her, then the trees, then the sky, as if the twin suns might explain why the universe enjoyed humiliating him. And someone stole your royal clothes to strand you? My brother, she said. Murrin. Caden's jaw clenched. Your brother did this. He disapproves of my interest in outsiders, Leia whispered. He seeks to discredit me before the council. Caden exhaled slowly. So I'm in the middle of royal politics. There is more, Leia said, voice dropping. By accepting your protection, you have been designated my ceremonial guardian. Caden stared. Ceremonial. It is a position of honor, she continued. And danger, he finished, because he had met the galaxy. Leia's eyes held his. You are bound to stand as my shield until the next alignment of moons. Caden ran a hand through his hair. And if I refuse? Her voice went soft, but it didn't waver. Then both our honors are forfeit. My brother wins. Caden looked at her, this alien princess wrapped in his shirt and jacket, carrying dignity like armor, and realized he was already too far in. All right, he said at last, resigned and alert. What do we do? Leia's relief was immediate. We recover my vestments, she said. And the crystal key hidden within them. Caden's brows rose. A crystal key. Yes, Leia said. Without it, my people's future may already be lost. Night fell fast on Glorian 7, bringing a chorus of alien calls and the constant wet breathing of the forest. Inside the shelter dome, Leia sat cross-legged on Caden's sleeping pad while he warmed water on a compact heater. She'd rolled up the sleeves of his jacket and was drawing on his data tablet with a stylus, sketching a map with confident strokes. The Whispering Caves, she said, tapping a marked point. My brother will take the vestments there. The traditionalist faction meets in secret. Caden leaned over her shoulder, studying the path. His arm brushed hers. Her skin was cool even through fabric, and the contact made him uncomfortably aware of the space between them, how little of it there was. These traditionalists hate outsiders, Caden said. They believe off-world influence corrupts our ways, Leia replied, bitterness threading her tone. My father advocated limited exchange. It created enemies. And Murrin sides with them. Leia nodded. Elder Pra leads them. He fills my brother's head with stories of human treachery from altered texts. Caden snorted. Every species has its professional xenophobes. Leia studied him. You are not offended. Why would I be? Fear is universal, Caden said. But fear mixed with power always gets people killed. A shrill beep interrupted them. Caden crossed to his comm console and frowned at the emergency broadcast. Warning, Razorfang pack spotted migrating through western valleys. Leia went pale, her green skin shifting lighter. Razorfangs? This early? Apex predators? Caden guessed. Massive feline hunters, Leia said, voice tight. Poisonous bite. They hunt in packs. Caden began checking his gear, pulling out a sonic repeller. How far to the Whispering Caves? A day north, Leia answered. But if Razorfangs are moving? Caden nodded grimly. Then we move smarter. Before they could decide more, a sharp crack sounded outside, wood snapping under weight. They froze. Not Razorfangs, Leia whispered. They move silently. Caden slid a pulse pistol from a case and moved to the dome's transparent panel. Outside, faint shapes surrounded the camp, 6, maybe more. Armed. Standing too still. Glorian hunters. Leia appeared beside him, Tense. Royal hunters. My father must have sent them when I didn't return. Caden's mind ran through options. Explain. Negotiate. Unlikely. They'll see a human male, Leia said, voice barely controlled, who has taken the first daughter's honor. They will not ask questions first. Caden grabbed a compact pack and shoved essentials inside. Then we don't give them time to decide. Is there a safe place between here and the caves? Leia hesitated, then nodded. The Temple of Ancestors. Ancient ruins. By law, no blood may be shed on its grounds. Perfect, Caden said, already moving. He triggered the shelter's security protocol, lights flashing, alarms screaming, and led Leia out the rear emergency hatch into darkness. They climbed all night, keeping to ridgelines. The alarm at camp bought them minutes, maybe more. Caden's scanner showed hunters moving away, chasing the diversion. But another cluster of heat signatures to the west made his blood go cold. Razorfangs are on the move, he muttered. The temple lies on elevated ground, Leia whispered. They prefer valleys. Stay on the ridge. Dawn bled into the sky when the ruins finally emerged, dark stone, precise angles, columns that didn't match Glorian architecture at all. This isn't Glorian construction, Caden said, slowing. It predates us, Leia replied. Legends say it was built by sky visitors before the First Awakening. They passed between statues flanking the entrance, and Caden stopped dead. Leia, he breathed. These aren't Glorian. She frowned. They represent the ancestors. No, Caden said, running a hand over weathered features. They're human. Or close to human. Leia's eyes widened. Impossible. Humans discovered Glorian 7 only 3 centuries ago. Caden's gaze flicked to carvings inside, human figures standing alongside Glorian, exchanging objects, embracing like allies. Apparently, he said softly, we were here long before that. Leia stared at the wall like it might rewrite her childhood. If this is true, it undermines the traditionalists. It destroys their power, Caden corrected. A sound at the entrance made them spin. 5 Glorian warriors stood silhouetted against the morning. The leader lowered his weapon and dropped to one knee. First daughter, he called. Praise the ancestors. We found you. Leia stepped forward, regal despite borrowed clothes. Captain Naryn, why do you kneel? Have you not come to arrest me and my guardian? The captain's expression was grave. We come seeking your aid, not your capture. Elder Pra has seized power. Leia's breath caught. My father. Imprisoned, Naryn said. Your brother has been named heir apparent. Caden muttered under his breath. A coup. Leia's eyes burned. Then the vestments, the crystal key. More important than ever, Naryn said. Without it, we cannot activate the capital's ancient defenses. Leia turned to Caden, intensity in her gaze. Will you stand with me, Guardian? This is not your fight. Caden looked at the carvings, proof of a buried shared history, and then at the princess who had crashed into his life like fate. I'm with you, he said simply. All the way. Naryn drew a rough map in temple dust. The whispering caves lie beyond this valley, he said, pointing to a narrow passage between steep ridges. Most direct route. Caden glanced at the scanner and sighed. Let me guess. Razor fangs. At least 12, Naryn confirmed. Leia studied the map, jaw tight. The alternate route adds a full day. And by then Pra realizes the key is missing, Caden said. He checked the charge on his pulse pistol. So we go through. Naryn's warriors exchanged grim looks. Traditionally, we send sacrificial runners to draw them away. Nope, Caden cut in. Not happening. Leia touched Caden's forearm, cool fingers lingering. Your refusal to waste lives honors you. Their eyes met, and the look between them was different now. The bond wasn't only law. Something else was building under it, quiet, undeniable. Caden cleared his throat and forced himself back into tactics. You called the gold-scale fish sacred swimmers. Do razorfangs hunt them? Leia blinked, puzzled. No. The gold scales secrete a toxin that repels predators. Even razorfangs avoid them. Caden's mind clicked. He'd collected samples before the lake encounter, sealed vials of oily extract for analysis. A slow smile spread across his face. Then I have an idea. An hour later, they stood at the valley's edge. Mist hugged the ground. The air smelled metallic and wet. Kaidan had converted his specimen containers into crude sprayers, filling them with diluted goldscale extract. "This is either brilliant," Naren muttered, taking one, "or suicidal." "That's the field biology motto," Kaidan said, and even Naren huffed a reluctant laugh. Leia watched Kaidan with something like admiration as he demonstrated. "Coat your boots." Razor fangs track by scent. They entered the valley in tight formation, Kaidan at point, Leia guarded by Naren's flank. The extract stank like brine and crushed herbs. Kaidan's eyes watered, but he kept moving. Halfway through, a low growl rolled out of the fog. A razorfang stepped into view, massive and sleek, teeth serrated like metal blades. Its eyes were yellow and intelligent, too intelligent. It lowered its head, tasting air. "Don't run," Kaidan whispered. He raised the sprayer and fired a fine mist at the creature's face. The razorfang recoiled instantly, hissing, pouring at its snout. It shook its head as if trying to fling off the smell itself. "It works," Leia breathed. "Keep moving," Kaidan said. "Slow. No sudden moves." They edged past. On the ridges above, shapes shifted, more razorfangs watching, not approaching but not leaving. For 20 tense minutes, they navigated through the valley, encountering predator after predator. Each time, the extract repelled them, yet Kaidan noticed something that made his stomach sink. The pack didn't scatter. They followed. "They're learning," Kaidan warned softly. "The extract won't confuse them much longer." As if the universe took that as a challenge, the largest razorfang charged from behind a rock formation, too fast for Kaidan to aim. Naren shoved Leia aside and raised an energy spear. The creature swiped, knocking the captain down. A gash opened across his chest. Kaidan fired his pulse pistol. The shot struck the razorfang's flank, and the beast roared, turning its attention toward the human who dared hurt it. "Run!" Kaidan shouted, backing away, firing again. But Leia didn't run. She grabbed a fallen spear with surprising strength and drove it into the creature's haunch. The razorfang howled, whipping around. That single moment was all Kaidan needed. He emptied his sprayer directly into its face. The concentrated extract hit like acid. The razorfang thrashed, clawing at its eyes, then retreated with an agonized screech that echoed off the ridges. The rest of the pack, witnessing their leader's defeat, melted into mist. Silence returned like a held breath released. Leia stood panting, spear in hand, hair wind-tossed, eyes blazing. "That," she said, voice breathless, "was incredibly brave." "Or incredibly stupid," Kaidan replied, voice shaky, helping Naren up. Naren pressed a hand to his wounded chest and inclined his head to Kaidan. "Perhaps both. But effective." Kaidan let out a tight laugh. "Don't tell the xenobiology department. They'll revoke my peaceful researcher card." Leia's smile flickered warm, almost proud. Then her gaze shifted forward. The whispering caves loomed ahead, dark mouth in the mountainside, vines hanging like curtains. Naren's voice dropped. "Pra will have guards posted. And your brother will be there." Leia's expression hardened. "Murrin may be misguided," she said, "but he is not evil." "And if he is?" Kaidan asked gently. Leia's eyes turned cold with resolve. "Then I do what I must, for my people." They slipped into the caves in a crouched line, guided by faint phosphorescent fungi that painted the stone in ghostly blue. The main tunnel branched into narrower passages. Voices echoed ahead, many, gathered. Kaidan's pulse pistol felt heavy in his hand. He wasn't a soldier, but he'd learned the hard way that intelligence didn't stop a blade. They reached a fissure overlooking a wide chamber lit by artificial lamps. Below, about 20 Glorians stood listening as Elder Pra addressed them from a raised platform. His headdress was elaborate, designed to command attention, exactly the kind of theatrical authority men like him loved. Beside him stood a younger Glorian male. Similar skin tone. Similar eyes. "Murrin," Leia whispered, anger and hurt twisting together. On a stone altar lay the royal vestments, ornate fabric and symbols. But Leia's gaze sharpened. "The crystal key is missing," she murmured. "Pra removed it." Kaiden's jaw clenched. "We need a distraction. Separate Murrin from Pra." Naryn nodded. "My warriors will create a commotion at the main entrance. When the guards respond, you use the side passage to reach him." Leia turned to Kaiden. In the dim light, her green skin seemed to glow. "Stay hidden until I speak with him." "Be careful," Kaiden said, taking her hand. The cool touch steadied him more than it should have. "Your brother might not be reasonable." "I must try," she whispered. On impulse, Kaiden pulled her close and kissed her, quick, urgent, full of everything he couldn't afford to say out loud. Her eyes shone when they parted. "For luck," she breathed. "We make our own luck," Kaiden replied, though he didn't believe it yet. Energy weapons discharged at the main entrance. Shouts erupted. Guards rushed away. "Now," Kaiden urged. They slipped through the side passage and emerged into the chamber's edge just as Pra concluded his speech. The crowd dispersed, leaving Murrin alone by the altar, staring at the vestments like they might absolve him. Leia stepped out first. "Murrin," she called. Her brother whirled around, shock widening his eyes. "Leia, how did you? You shouldn't be here. It's dangerous. More dangerous than stealing my vestments and leaving me naked at the sacred lake," Leia snapped. Murrin's skin darkened with shame. "I never meant to." Elder Pra said it was necessary. "He said your human sympathies would destroy our way." "And you believed him," Leia said, stepping closer. "Brother, what Pra fears isn't change. It's truth." Murrin frowned. "Truth. The Temple of Ancestors holds proof humans and Glorians share a history thousands of years old," Leia said. "We met before. We were allies." "That's impossible," Murrin breathed, doubt flickering. Kaiden stepped from the shadows. "Your texts were altered," he said. "The traditionalists suppressed it for generations." Murrin's hand moved to his weapon until Leia cut in, firm as steel. "This is Kaiden Blackmore, my chosen guardian. And he speaks truth." Murrin stared at Kaiden, scandalized. "A human, as your guardian? Have you lost your mind?" "I found clarity," Leia said. "Where is the crystal key? What has Pra done with it?" Before Murrin could answer, slow clapping echoed through the chamber. Elder Pra emerged from a hidden alcove, flanked by armed guards. "How touching," Pra sneered. "The wayward princess returns with her human pet." Kaiden's stance shifted, assessing cover. There was almost none. "Where is my father?" Leia demanded. "Safe for now," Pra said, pulling a translucent crystal from his robes. It pulsed with inner light. "He remains safe if you cooperate." "The key," Leia whispered. "More than a key," Pra hissed. "A control node for technology beyond your comprehension. Left by those you call ancestors." "You mean humans," Kaiden said, watching Pra's reaction. Pra's composure slipped, a heartbeat of rage and fear. Then he recovered. "It changes nothing. The masses will never believe you. They will when they see the temple carvings," Leia said. "There will be no temple to see," Pra spat, raising the crystal. "This device activates weapons buried beneath sacred sites, capable of erasing evidence." Murrin stepped back, horrified. "You would destroy holy places. It is preservation," Pra roared. "Humans corrupted our ancestors once. I will not allow it again." He snapped his fingers. Guards advanced. Kaiden moved first. He fired his last goldscale sprayer not at guards, but into the chamber's ventilation shafts. Pungent mist filled the air. Glorians recoiled, gagging. In the confusion, Kaiden lunged and tackled Pra to the ground. The crystal key flew free, skittering across stone. "Leia, the key!" Kaiden shouted, grappling with a surprisingly strong elder. Leia dove only for a guard to intercept. Murrin made his choice. He slammed into the guard, sending them crashing into the wall. "Get it, sister." Pra's nails raked Kaiden's face, blood hot against sweat. "Fool," Pra hissed. "You understand nothing." Kaiden pinned him harder. "I understand you're terrified of history. Pra broke free with desperate strength and scrambled toward a control panel embedded in the wall. If I can't preserve purity, Pra snarled, I'll ensure there's nothing left to corrupt. Kaiden's blood ran cold. Leia, he shouted. Use the key, now. Leia's fingers closed around the crystal. For half a second, she stared at it like it was a living thing, her inheritance, her burden, her proof. Then she moved. She pressed the crystal into a matching indentation hidden inside the royal vestments. The fabric, once inert cloth on an altar, flared with eerie light. Symbols bloomed across it like awakening constellations. Pra howled. No. He slammed his fist on the control panel. The cave trembled. Dust rained from the ceiling. Small stones bounced across the floor. The sound deepened like the mountain itself had begun to growl. He triggered a self-destruct sequence. Murrin shouted, wrestling a guard. He's going to collapse the chamber. Kaiden lunged for Pra, but the Elder's guards surged forward. Leia closed her eyes. The glow from the vestments intensified until it painted every face in the chamber with pale silver. The crystal pulsed in rhythm with words. She began to chant ancient syllables, older than politics, older than lies. The mountain's tremor sharpened. Then the crystal released a beam of energy straight into the control panel. The shaking stopped instantly, like a giant hand had gripped the world and held it still. The panel sparked once, twice, then died. Silence dropped like a curtain. Pra stared at the dead controls as if disbelief could resurrect them. What have you done? Leia opened her eyes. Her voice carried authority now, no longer only the first daughter's title, but something deeper, something ancestral. I reclaimed my birthright. The vestments resized themselves seamlessly, draping her perfectly, no longer borrowed cloth, no longer humiliation. Regal. Whole. The crystal hovered above her palm, projecting holographic symbols into the air. Images unfolded, humans and Glorians standing side by side, exchanging tools, teaching, laughing, embracing. Not conquerors. Not victims. Partners. Even love. The guards lowered their weapons without realizing it, transfixed by the display. Murrin's mouth parted, stunned. Naryn's warriors, who had just arrived at the chamber entrance, fell silent. Kaiden stepped beside Leia, eyes fixed on the holograms. His scientist mind wanted to analyze, to categorize. But his human heart only felt one thing. Truth had weight. Our ancestors welcomed humans, Leia said, her voice steady, carrying through the chamber. They shared knowledge, culture, and yes, affection. The proof is encoded within this key, passed down through generations of my family. It was never meant to empower fear. It was meant to protect our future. Murrin moved closer, shaken. Why would the elders hide this from us? Because fear is easier than growth, Kaiden said quietly. And fear makes power stable. Pra found his voice again, thin, venomous. Blasphemy. The council will never accept this revision. They will, Captain Naryn announced, stepping forward with his warriors. And they will learn you imprisoned the High Elder and attempted to destroy holy sites. Naryn's men seized Pra and his guards. Pra struggled, spitting curses, but the room no longer listened to him. He had lost the only thing he ever truly owned, control over the story. Leia turned then, slowly, toward Kaiden. The hardness in her expression softened into something that hit him harder than any predator or weapon. Gratitude. Emotion. A kind of relief so deep it looked like pain. It seems my guardian fulfilled his duty admirably, she said, a smile playing at her lips. Kaiden tried to keep his tone light. So, I'm released from service? Leia stepped closer until he could feel her breath warm now, not cool, like she'd borrowed some of his heat. That depends, she murmured. Do you wish to be released? Kaiden's answer came before thought could interfere. Since the moment he'd heard that scream across the lake, something in his universe had shifted, as if he'd been drifting for years and finally found gravity. No, he said softly. I don't. Her smile was radiant. She rose on tiptoes and kissed him, without shame, without fear, heedless of onlookers. When they parted, she whispered against his lips. Good. Because there is an ancient tradition for guardians who wish to make their position permanent. Murrin cleared his throat awkwardly. Sister, perhaps that discussion can wait until we free father and restore order. Leia laughed, the sound bright even in the dark cave. Always practical, brother. She took Caden's hand and squeezed. Come, my guardian. We have a coup to undo and a future to build. As they emerged into the bright Glorian day, Caden looked up at twin suns and wondered how quickly a life could change. He'd come hunting goldscale fish in solitude. And found something rarer. A truth buried for millennia. A people on the edge of awakening. And a woman whose first words to him, panicked, embarrassed, human in their own way, still echoed in his mind like fate. Sir, someone stole my clothes.